Thank you, Jabir, for the kind words and also inspiration and foundation for the talk. Good morning to all of you. We will start the session with a topic. I thought I will select a topic which I am not fully aware of. A new area that is supposed to be or going to be the foundation of pathogenesis of almost all diseases in the human body. Just like as Jabir mentioned, there is always a symbiosis, or there should be a symbiosis between the microorganisms that inhabits all over the body, especially in the gastrointestinal tract. It is difficult to establish a clear-cut relation between these organisms' benefits or how these benefits we are enjoying. But when there is a disease, we always search for the reasons. That also happen here. Our branch, allopathy, is an evidence-based medicine. We started looking into the reason for diseases. And this has led to the beginning or even as the end of all problems in the gut. When I selected the topic, I thought it is easy for me. But when I started reading, I was actually swimming in the sea. So somehow I had to come back to the shore. That much of information or that much of area we have to explore if you want to talk or give an authoritative talk in this area. I will try to make you aware of the topic. That is what I can do. So the microbiome means mind. Mind, you cannot define as an anatomical area. It is actually a potential space where our thoughts are cooked, or we think, we act, everything in a space, a potential space, that is our mind. So the microbiome means altogether the effect of the nervous system gives us our thoughts and solutions, everything. When I am presenting the topic, it is through my mind. But all these are influenced by chemicals. And all these chemicals, the so-called neurotransmitters, or fatty acids, or whatever it is, all these metabolites or chemicals are all contributed by or made by or balanced by or changed by our microbiota. The food we eat, the thoughts we generate influence our body. You can remember that when we became anxiety, what happens to your gut, what happens to your heart, what happens to your brain, or what happens in total. Let us see a few slides. Okay. Pointer. See, what is the gut microbe? Just like Jabir mentioned, is it a forgotten organ? Diverse microbial community, bacteria, fungi, viruses, and all organisms that not coming in between, cannot be classified. All these contributes to the microbiota. And what is the quantity? The number is much higher than human cells, and the genome is 150 times more than our genomes. Up to 100 trillion bacteria, that means number is actually an imagination, but the reality is the biota is much more than our cells. One example, one bacteria, Firmicutes dominate. It's a gram-positive cocaine, and the number is much higher than most of the organisms. They generate a few chemicals or converts amino acids that we eat into favorable chemicals, sometimes unfavorable, depending upon the body environment that we means. If they are taking a bad food, or if you are thinking of something else that you are not good for you, this will change. Bacteroids, actinobacteria, a few of them only mentioned here, Microbiota and proteobacteria. All these are very important, but there are much more than what I can enumerate here, and much less in the stomach and small intestine. So the large intestine is actually the container of the new organ, microbiota. And there is an axis between this microbiota in the gut and the brain. How that is connected? This is connected through the metabolites, neurotransmitters and hormones. These are generated with the digestion of the food. That also happens with our hormone system, enzymes, as well as the organisms. And from that, this gut microbe, via the immune system changes or stimulation of the vagus nerve or the enteric nervous system, neuroendocrine system, circulatory system. And all these can lead to altered behaviors. Sometimes emotional behavior. For example, there is a disease by name autism spectrum disorder. This is actually now they are finding that this is influenced by the microbiota. Anxiety happens to all of us for doing everything or something, depends on personal variation, and it is also influenced by, or the degree of anxiety is decided by the metabolites and neurotransmitters modified or produced by the microbiota. Physical performance and motivation, of course, controlled by them. And neurodegenerative diseases, now evidence is there, happens because of a change in the barrier system of the intestine and the brain, blood-brain barrier. And this is also balanced and influenced by the microbiota. This bidirectional communication between the gut microbiome and the nervous system. See, up or down, it happens. So from the gut, chemicals in the form of neurotransmitters, metabolites, hormones reach the brain, and from there back. Whether it is in the anatomical communication or immunological communication or the HPA axis, neurotransmitters, neuropeptides, microbiota products, all these contributes to this via the above mentioned pathways. Examples of these metabolites mediated. Short fatty acids, when we take long fatty acids, it will be fermented by the bacteria in the gut, and short fatty acids are produced, and they support by neuroprotection, modulate gene expression. So neuroprotection, short chain fatty acids helps. Then tryptophan derivatives and amino acids. So the tryptophan metabolism happens inside the cells and also strongly influenced by the microbiota. A very important group of chemicals are actually secreted by the from the tryptophan. So the tryptophan metabolism changes the neuroinflammation and microglial activation. So the microglia always has got a protective and supporting function in the brain. It's actually the immune system, supporting system. So this can be changed by the microbiota. Another group is bile acids, actually protective, or it can be harmful depending on the situation where it is produced and the quantity that reaches the blood. Neurotransmitters like very important serotonin, dopamine and GLP-1. The extent of activities, for example serotonin, it is very important for brain function in various ways. In the gut, more than 90% it is produced in the chromaffin cells of the gut from tryptophan. So where is the control? And GLP-1, glucose metabolism, and it has got receptors are throughout the body. It's not only glucose level. So it is influencing the whole body. Then I told you about the barrier system. There are two barrier systems that will be damaged. If both the barrier systems are intact, there is no gut leak. No pathological organisms can enter the gut and reach the bloodstream. This is actually damaged. Maybe our food items or thought processes or any chemicals that reach that area. So the microbiome, if the microbiota changes, harmful bacteria can inhabit the gut and damage. So if the intestinal barrier is damaged, chemicals will be reaching the blood and it will reach the brain, and the blood-brain barrier also can become damaged. Glial cell modulation, microbiota signals affecting microglia, astrocytes and oligodendrocytes. I told you they are always important in maintaining the functions of the neurons and supporting the neurons. So any overactivity or chemicals released there itself can damage the nervous system. I told you, long chain fatty acids are converted by the microbiome into short chain fatty acids, which are favorable for the brain, decreases brain inflammation and also activation of the harmful glial cells. Short chain fatty acids stimulates tryptophan hydroxylase enzyme and leads to production of 5-hydroxytryptamine. Serotonin actions entering nervous system is another area that it acts, and it produces a lot of changes in the gut and the brain. That is, the gut motility is modulated by it, cell differentiation happens, and the CNS influence mood. So the motility of the intestine and the mood of the person, change in the brain, that also is affected there by the changes that happens in the microbiota. Here actually you can see, are you seeing this IPAN neuron? That intrinsic primary afferent neurons is there. This one. IPAN, intrinsic primary afferent neurons. This actually are unique set of neurons in the GIT or enteric nervous system. It is otherwise called the second brain. It is otherwise called the second brain because it is operating autonomously. See, this autonomous action is controlling the gut itself, not depending upon the brain to help the gut, because it can operate independently. And the plexuses, anatomy, meandric plexus, submucosal plexus, we used to name it as Orbox and Meisnes. So these plexuses, they contain this IPAN, and there the food sensing occurs. These are the neurons concerned with the food sensing. Which type of food is there? Is it required? Whether the metabolism will help us or not. If there is a rejection is required, this will be sending directions to the brain or request to the brain, and you can develop a change in the motility, whether emesis or diarrhea can happen. So this cellular level control is also mediated and modulated by the gut microbe. And irritable bowel syndrome is not uncommon among medical personnel. It is also a direct example of stimulation of IPAN group of nerves. Now, tryptophan, I was telling about the tryptophan, a single amino acid. See the three sets of areas through which its action happens in the body: 5-hydroxytryptamine, kynurenine, and indoles. So the short chain fatty acids always neuroprotective role, modulate gene expression and inflammation. The tryptophan indole derivatives influence, most of the time harmful, but a couple of times helpful for the brain. And the bile acids affects neuroinflammation and signals. See, the enterochromatin cells are influenced by the stimulation of the autonomic nervous system. And I have mentioned already the tryptophan metabolism leads to all the three, and indole secretions are primarily or always depend upon the microbiota. It goes into the cells and then only the derivatives comes out. We can compare the healthy state and disease state. See the integrity of the area, that is the gut integrity is lost. When it is healthy, the junctions are intact, barrier system is working, mucosal layer is intact, the healthy gut microbiome, short chain fatty acids produce more, fiber degradation happens, and invasion and disturbances of the mucosa is prevented. On the other hand, when there is an inflammatory process happens, there is significant damage to all the three layers because of dysbiosis. And short chain fatty acids will come down, so the brain will be affected, fiber degradation will not happen, production of short chain fatty acid will be less, and so on. So this can happen even with a low fiber diet. See, another molecule that is important, short chain fatty acid glucuronides, already told, improves blood-brain barrier integrity and prevents glial activation. Whereas, what is this trimethylamine N oxide? That is another molecule that is very important here. It is synthesized from the choline and L-carnitine food items. And this, especially the bacteria involved is firmicutes, the most prevalent one. So the firmicutes synthesize it from choline and L-carnitine in the colon, and from there is absorbed in the liver. There is modification occurs and increased blood level of TMAO It's found to be associated with inflammation in vascular diseases that can be cerebrovascular accidents or myocardial infarction. So, actually, where is the control or where is the stimulus for vascular accidents? Whether we have to go into the gut and evaluate, the question will remain unanswered. Two, three conditions we will just see. What is happening? Alzheimer's disease everywhere. There's a very strong discussion was going on. Persons coming with significant cognitive impairment, memory disturbances. Is there any connection to microbiota? See, near that picture, it is written neuroinflammation, microglial activation, intestinal barrier impairment, gut microbiome alterations, blood-brain barrier protection. Then there is amyloid beta and tau protein deposition, accumulation. That is actually basis of this damage to the cells. So the amyloid deposition and tau protein activation, then but that will leads to synaptic dysfunction. There is a pathology there. What is important here? Short chain fatty acids. Here. And also all the point, but most important is here. Short chain fatty acids. There is overall demonstration beneficial effects in Alzheimer's disease, but this G protein coupled receptors, GPCR activation and HDCA, that is actually histone deacetylases. These acetylases are very, very important because there is an activation of GPCRS receptors and inhibition of the other one. So which will lead to cell damage and gene silencing. It goes into the molecular biology level and a gene silencing occurs, which will lead to deposition of bad proteins and Alzheimer's disease. So in the question will be which investigation will be diagnostic, or which part of the human body should be evaluated when there is a person presenting Alzheimer's disease, and next we are going to see Parkinsonism, degenerative diseases. Then what is the role about the probiotics? Always we used to describe about that. What is the last one is, again the detrimental effects of the TMAO is mentioned here, already we are told. Then the probiotic lactobacillus, that will actually decreases the detrimental TMAO levels and decreases neuroinflammation. Here. And on the right side, we are seeing polyunsaturated fatty acids, omega-3. The company people, everybody will be compelling us to take omega-3, omega-3. Yes, there is a role for omega-3. It improves the cognitive function and decreases the pathology that happens, the deposition of bad proteins in the brain leading to Alzheimer's disease. And omega-6 may not be helpful. So always there should be a balance between the 3 and 6 in preventing the pathogenesis of degenerative diseases. Already we have mentioned about the tryptophan in indole derivatives. And there is something about the Parkinsonism. I don't think any medical person have not seen Parkinsonism disease. How much it is disabling. Very, we cannot tolerate a patient because we don't have any offer to the patient. When in 82 I started my career, means a student's life as MBBS student, the same day only Parkinsonian patient walking even now, no change. So different modalities of treatment, we have got a list of drugs, procedures, but the gait is the same, the disability is the same. Is there any relation with our topic for this disease? Yes. It is the microbiota that altering the balance between the favorable and unfavorable neurotransmitters that leads to or supports the occurrence of Parkinsonism. And the role of prebiotics, that is actually fiber diet, the common diet that we take, Mediterranean diet, a lot of things, fiber diet, fruits, legumes, prebiotics that will supply the fibers that will be fermented in the body and will get short-free fatty acid chains. And probiotic will supplement favorable bacteria. So this will, to some extent, balance the gut environment and prevent unfavorable bacteria to multiply, and also protecting the barrier systems of the brain and the gut. And a word about the branch chain amino acids, leucine, isoleucine and valine. The beneficial effects in PD, a multiple purpose supporting it. And probiotic lactobacillus that increases the branch chain amino acids, leading to intestinal barrier integrity as well as decreased glial activity. Again, tryptophan metabolites has got detrimental and supportive effects in the disease process, especially degenerative diseases. So, what are the diseases that are associated with? A lot of research is going on, and the published paper supports evidence with following diseases. Cancer. Significant number of cancers are associated with this imbalance. IBS, inflammatory bowel disease or irritable one, Crohn's disease, diarrhea, and so on in the GIT. Infections as a separate group happens when there is a imbalance in the gut. Already mentioned Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disease, and also paper supporting Huntington's disease and cognitive disorders. Again, immune diseases and autoimmune disorders. Going to be, with more evidence, we are going to detect autoimmune disorders and gut microbiome. Cardiovascular disease, I told you already, there is evidence that endothelial dysfunction, inflammation of the endothelium can happen with this. So we are going to find a reason, we are going to attach it to gut microbiota imbalance. Sleep disorders, definitely there is a relation. Anxiety disorders and eating disorders. What is any therapeutic application here? We have seen papers in important journals and also available in the net. Prebiotics and probiotics modulate glial activation, reduce inflammation, and improve cognitive and motor outcomes. Supported by papers. Fecal microbiota transplantation now happening. It restores the healthier microbiome, improve barrier integrity, and reduce neuroinflammation. Evidence-based. Dietary interventions. High fiber diet promotes short fatty acid chains, producing bacteria, short fatty acid chain producing bacteria, which supports the gut barrier and brain barrier and the health of both organs. Therapeutic clinical trials we can refer. And now a lot of trials are going on. Irritable bowel syndrome means anxiety related disorders. Number one, and it is leading. Functional constipation management possible and improvement in other systems are notified. Functional diarrhea, functional dyspepsia, and so on, anxiety, depression, etc. And significant number of publications. So this is only an eye-opener. My role is to bring attention into this area, often forgotten or an area where we have to pay attention, because the food that we eat, very important, that actually gives the way we are going to live. Thank you.